Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking about the Prime Minister today saying that as far as the provinces are concerned, the coordination is essential. All provinces and the federal government are to coordinate on the issue of terrorism. Of course, he also talked about the fact that national security rests on economic security, and the major steps are going to be taken as far as coordination is concerned. And the Prime Minister also said that as far as the country is concerned, there are no two opinions on the fact that no kind of terrorism will be allowed within Pakistan. There are no two opinions upon that. We'll be talking about what kind of coordination can we expect as far as the national institutions are concerned, as far as the provincial institutions are concerned in the next couple of weeks. We'll also a little later on talk about the kind of statements that are now coming from the former Prime Minister again as far as establishment is concerned, as far as institutions are concerned. There's a lot that he's again alluding to in terms of his popularity, in terms of his people, in terms of the kind of, according to him, activities that are underfoot to sabotage to what he means and he sees as his popularity. Is any of that true? We'll be talking about that, all of that today on Perspective. I have with me Rana Maqbool Ahmad, who is a senator with PMLN. Thank you for joining us, and then later on we'll have other guests with us to talk about these issues. Ji, Rana Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, sure, Ji.
Rana Saab, I want to talk about, of course, the issue of terrorism and the fact that, of course, we've seen the Prime Minister talk about coordination, which is essential between all national institutions and the provinces on this core issue. And of course, I mean, there can't be two opinions on the issue of terrorism, regardless of whether you're in the government, whether in the opposition. How much of that do you feel is true as far as the government, opposition, the national, federal institutions, the provincial institutions all being on one page on this?
Thank you, Maruk. I'm grateful you gave me the opportunity to talk on this sensitive issue. I personally think it's the foremost responsibility of every individual, maybe a political person or a citizen or a man from the opposition or from the government. It's a solemn duty of every individual in this country to be part of this crusade against terrorism, because this is perhaps the biggest challenge for any nation, which we are again taking it on and confronting this great menace. And likewise, in the past, we really trampled the terrorists and achieved spectacular results this time as well. Otherwise, Maraf, there is a constitutional responsibility as well. If you go through Article 148 and 149 of the Constitution of Pakistan, it enshrines the foremost responsibility of the provincial government to respond to the call of the federal government to any issue, more so the security of Pakistan, because this pertains to the security of Pakistan. Hence, the provincial governments are duty-bound constitutionally as well to cooperate and to come forward and to share this battle against terrorism. Perhaps there's no choice at all. More so, as far as I understand, it's a sacred duty as well, the sacred most duty. Otherwise, if we won't get together, if we don't go with the common heart and common determination, we'll be the losers. So if we stay back united, our strength will get enhanced. So therefore, there has to be no choice except for getting together on one platform, whole of the nation, to combat against this menace of terrorism.
How united? I mean, of course, you're right. I mean, there is a constitutional duty, there's a sacred duty, and of course, our duty to the country, there's no denying about that. But in terms of the coordination, the Prime Minister spoke about increasing coordination between the provinces. and the federal government. Do you think that there has been, I mean, the kind of coordination that is needed at this time? Are you getting that kind of coordination at this time? Is there, because of course we are at this time having different governments in different provinces. There's no denying that. But overall, how is the situation with regard to coordination at this time on this very important issue?
There are a few visible gaps, and which are to be bridged. There are certain irritants as well as far as the policy of different provinces and different governments and different parties are concerned. So they have to converge on one point. Especially the policy in KPK is a little different from the policy in the federal government, because KPK is the worst affected province for the last many months. Perhaps more than 345 or 50 attacks have been carried out against the innocent citizens and the government officials and the security officials by the terrorists. So there is urgent need of converging all the efforts on one point, that they sit together and go full hog against the terrorists. For example, as far as the infrastructure and instruments of combat capability in KPK are concerned, those are not sufficiently sharpened and sufficiently enhanced. For example, I give you an example of Bannu incident. There was only one superintendent of police, and there was not sanctioned strength of the CTD, counterterrorism officials. They were not having snipers, they were not having surveillance equipment, and they were not having the gadgetry which is needed in the modern era. So their combat capability is much below the required standard. So once the provincial government and the federal government, they sit together, if there are certain gaps and there are certain inadequate facilities, they can help each other. So there is no choice except for getting together. So that need is really unavoidable. That is to be fulfilled as quickly as possible. So I'm also...
Let me come back to you. We have with us Sangeen Khan. Can you hear me? He's a security analyst, and I would like to ask him what the overall situation is. Then I'll come back to you. Mr. Khan, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Overall, we're talking about increasing coordination, which the Prime Minister spoke about, between the provinces and the federal government. Institutions, as far as such as NACTA also, among other institutions. Overall, in terms of the situation in different provinces, how do you see the situation as far as this coordination is concerned? Has there been, of course, there is a need for increase in the efforts to be on one page, but overall, is it being influenced by the political situation? How do you look at it?
First of all, thank you very much. Yes, absolutely. It is very much high time that the all provinces show, they show kind of common denominators, because its responsibility lies in all provinces, because there's a common challenge and it demands a common response. As far as your question is concerned, yes, National Counter-Terrorism NECTA was concerned, Action Plan was concerned. The basic aim was that the provincial bodies were, established, which was supposed to work together in order to tackle the the scourge of terrorism. As far as the today's the statement was concerned, yes, the huge responsibility lies on the provincial setup as well. They need to really show seriousness as far as the terrorism is concerned, because we see, given the rise of terrorist activities, specifically in Balochistan, as far as also former FATA. So I think the huge responsibility lies on the provincial setup as well, because we have got different governments in KPK, different government in Balochistan, and here we have the coalition government in federal. So I think the provincial setup, they need to cooperate with the federal government in order to thwart and eliminate the scourge of terrorism.
Is the federal government getting the kind of cooperation that is needed, in your opinion?
I I think they must cooperate as because recent two national security committee were concerned. It reflected seriousness that both civilian and military leadership stand on one point. And another important point, it reflects that as far as society is concerned, the society is very much clear. As far as the terrorism is concerned, they zero tolerance for the terrorist. Yes, I think the provisional setup, they should keep aside their political differences because the matter of national security. As we know, in KPK, the government of there is a government of PTI in Balochistan. We have the coalition setup, BAB and other parties here. So I think they must reflect, political maturity. They put aside their political differences aside. It's a matter of national security. Because if I would like to take you back, once the APS tragedy took place, all political parties, put aside their political differences. They came, they deliberated on the topic. So I would say, and
there was talk of an all-parties conference, but of course, we haven't seen. I mean, the statements that are coming from the opposition, primarily PTI, overall have not. I mean, they've been targeting the government in all spheres of life. I mean, if you look at in all spheres of politics, the way the former Prime Minister is talking against all parties in power at this time. Of course, the all parties conference hasn't happened yet, but what do you expect if it does happen from the opposition?
It is very appreciative idea if the all-party conference AP take place, because the opposition need to show political maturity, because they need to understand most of the terrorist activities in the recent past happened in the in the KP government. So it is the larger responsibility lies in the KPK setup as well. So I have been saying in a couple of shows as well, they need to put aside their political differences. They should cooperate with the federal government, because it's not a matter of your political gimmicks, a matter of national security. So if the APC all-party conference is held, they must cooperate. They should put aside their differences, because it's a matter of national security.
Right. Thank you for being with us, Sangeet Khan Sahab. I will go to Rana Sahab, but first we have Dr. Abid Abbasi, who's a political analyst in the studio. Thank you for joining us. Abid Sahab, we're talking about the fact that, of course, increased coordination, that the Prime Minister has felt a need to ask for increased coordination on the issue of terrorism. Of course, we've seen a recent unfortunate spike in terrorism. Overall, what is the situation in your opinion? Of course, Afghanistan also, and our stance vis-a-vis the government has said that they will have talks, but of course, they want the Afghan Taliban to implement the Doha Accord. How do you see that? How do you think the things will pan out there?
Thank you very much, Maro, for your invitation in the show. Yes, it's a very serious kind of situation Pakistan is being faced now, and we have seen the spike in terrorist attacks, especially in KPK. But at the same time, because we know that previously the civil military leadership, they were on they were on board with the government, and they chalked out a strategy and making a national action plan to counter the terrorism from within the country, to cope up with the serious situation we have been facing for the last so many decades, that Pakistan is victim of that terrorist attacks taking place from various borders. And keeping in consideration the seriousness of the issue, the dire need of the issue, the whole leadership of the country across the board, civil military, the government and the military leadership, they were on one page. They sat together and they chalked out that strategy. But unfortunately, this time we are not witnessing that much concern, especially by the KP government and the opposition under former Prime Minister Imran Khan, because we have seen that some of the meetings took place in under the chair of Prime Minister and federal government. Even in one meeting, the CM of KP, he did not attend that meeting, and that shows that how much. Then we have been, seeing the news coming from various quarters that they are having some connections with the Taliban. They were paying some sort of ransom money to them. And these are very drastic kind of thing, because Pakistan, when the security of Pakistan is at the stake, when every stakeholder of the country, the life of the people is at the stake, the economy of the people of the country is at the stake, and that requires a very serious kind of response from all quarters of the country, either they are the provincial governments or the federal government.
And all other issues, all other concerns must take a back seat. Let me come back to you. I have, Rana Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Rana Saab, Rana Sanaullah, the Interior Minister, has said that if the Doha Agreement, the Doha Accord is implemented, there will be, this spate of terrorism will cease immediately. Do you think that we will get that kind of response from the Taliban? They have traditionally, proved to be difficult and not as trustworthy, of course, as we would like.
Number one, we have to launch a real effective diplomatic mission for this purpose vis-a-vis the Afghan government. Primarily, it is the responsibility of the Afghan government that terrorism does not get pampered in their areas, and they are responsible to eliminate that and to control that and to manage that. So we must interact with the Afghan government immediately in a massive manner and try to persuade them, bring them around to play their role and play their responsibility. This is what perhaps Rana Saab meant. So there's no other choice, because peacemaking efforts are required from us and from the Afghan government. These have to be collaborative efforts. Now the issue about the dissidents and the people who are violating the direction of Afghan government, they are to be taken to task by the Afghan government themselves. It's not only their national duty, it's an international responsibility as well. And this is what the main part of Doha Agreement is. So he's right, we must immediately put effort, because last time the Minister of the State Foreign Affairs did go and visit Afghanistan. But we need to visit Afghanistan again, or we call them here. We have to interact and communicate with the Afghan government to address this issue immediately without further loss of time. Though 2 days before, their minister and the spokesperson announced certain action which was taken by them against the terrorists who launched attack on Chaman, and they said they have been taken to task. But that's not enough. That's good. That should be appreciated if they really done it. But this total program is to be implemented in a methodical manner and a collaborative manner, and in communication with the government of Pakistan and the formations of Pakistan vis-a-vis Afghanistan. There has to be collective and joint effort for that purpose. This is immediate answer to the question. Now the splinter groups who are resorting to terrorism, they are to be taken to task. And for that purpose, as you were already mentioned, my friend also mentioned, that there is some divergence of views and divergence of policy with the KP government. The KPK government and the leadership, they are to be told in very clear words that they have to come on one platform with the government, because it's a national responsibility, and it's a volcanic eruption which is taking place. If we are not able to,
of course, it must take precedence over all other issues. There's no denying that.
That has to take.
Nana Sir, please stay with us.
Over everything.
I want to move on. Please stay with us. Abid Sir, overall, the kind of response we've seen from the opposition, the kind of, I want to move on and talk more about that. But do you expect, I mean, if there is an all-parties conference, do you expect them to, and let's talk about KP in particular, do you expect them to follow suit, and follow on whatever the federal government is saying as far as the issue is concerned?
They have to. They have to, because it is the matter of the security of the country. It is the matter of the, 250 million people of the country. This is the matter of this, economy of the country. This is the matter of the survival of the country. And the every, stakeholder, as I earlier said, has to take its responsibility. It is not a matter of joke, or it's not a matter of, political to play with the galleries. This is a very serious matter. Everybody should keep in consideration. And I think there should be a clear message, as Rana Maqbool Sahab has said earlier, that by the federal government and by the security establishment to take them into consideration, that this is not the issue that can be played politically. It is the issue of the survival of the country, and we have seen in past that this menace of terrorism has brought a tremendous loss to the country, more than $120 billion lost to the country, and about 80,000 innocent people of the country, security forces, they have sacrificed their lives. But if this menace of terrorism is given a chance to spread again, that would be very much drastic, dangerous for the very foundation of the country.
Right,
so they should also know that they are ruling the province which is unfortunately, which has been a ground for terrorist activities, because most of the terrorist activities are taking place from the western border, and the KP province is located over there. Their responsibility is much more than any other government in the country. I'm talking
the
in
location itself,
location
makes it incumbent upon them to
and
act.
on one side, Imran Khan has been claiming that he is actually the only leader, quote unquote, in his own words, to unite the nation, and he has been taking a different stance on various issues, but this is now issue of the survival of the country.
Right. I want to move on and talk about, of course, terrorism is a huge issue, and one hopes that there will be unity on it. Moving on, we've also seen the recent statements that are coming from the former Prime Minister Imran Khan Sahab against institutions again. There's a lot that he's alluding to. He's talking about his own people again being approached. He's talking about interference to what he terms as his popularity. Rana Sahab, how do you look at these statements now? Again, this is after we've seen a change in leadership in that, as far as the military is concerned. These statements have started again. These are a new spate of statements that have now been issued by the former Prime Minister. How do you look at them?
Maruf, I personally understand he is in a state of total deviation, and he doesn't go for any introspection before he speaks. He has gone totally idiosyncratic, and he has become a loose cannon. He does not understand that by criticizing the vital institutions of the country, he will harm the integrity and the peace of country. He should act in a responsible manner, and he should be there to shoulder the responsibility which is due to him for the nation, for the country, for the integrity of the country. How come he does have the license to talk about against every institution with total impunity? That he shouldn't do. For that purpose, there are two ways. Number one, at the government level and the institutional level, they should have communication with him through the president, because he is the main challenge.
Okay.
At least effort is to be made. Maybe we should partly succeed.
You're saying that better sense should prevail, and there should be an attempt to approach him through the president, if I'm not wrong.
No. This is what I'm saying, that he should come to real sensible decisions. He should not look like as he has gone totally berserk. This is not a normal behavior. He has become a loose cannon. He does not talk with responsibility. He is extremely erratic. Let's admit that. No, there has to be somebody to tell him, try to be normal, and try to be righteous, and try to be correct in your assessment and your statements. Number one. If this effort fails, then you are the state, and the state machinery and the government institutions are duty bound to proceed against him. At least he has to be stopped somewhere, or he'll be.
Come back to you. I'm going to go to Abid Sahab with this. I think that's very interesting. Abid Sahab, what Rana Sahab is saying is, you heard him. He's saying that better sense should prevail, and that he should think about the statements that are coming. Do you think it has to do with? Is it an insecurity? Does he feel that he's getting, it's affecting his popularity? What he thought, the immediate elections and the demand for it, and the dissolution, and now that's not happening. His own allies, the problem with them is behind these statements. How do you look at it?
One thing that I definitely agree with Rana Sahab, but if the sense will prevail, if there is any sense, if there is any responsibility, only then that responsibility can be exercised. But unfortunately, we have seen in past that except coming into power and enjoying the power, coming into power and having the desire through constitutional manner to come into power is not a bad thing, rather it's an appreciable thing. But he remained in power for about 3.5 years, about 4 years, but he could not deliver anything to the people of Pakistan. Rather, he has sunk the country, the economy of the country, to the ditches where it is hard now to come out of all those ditches which he has created for the economy of the country. Unfortunately, he failed. But when he is talking against the institution of the state, it is not having any weight or any sort of substance in it, but it is only mere his lust or his desire to come into power again. He actually couldn't bear the situation when the whole top slots of the military institutions, they were supporting him. They have created a sort of atmosphere for him by twisting the arms of the media, by using their influences in the judiciary, and finally Imran Khan. Even then, in the elections of 2018, he couldn't secure a majority to form the government. But then many behind the curtain tactics were used to bring him into power, making those allies, the natural allies of the former establishment, they were forced to join Imran Khan, and he succeeded to form the government. And at that time, the Bajwa was a wonderful man. He used to say his, sort of clips are very much viral on the social media that Mr. Qamar Javed Bajwa is a wonderful man. He is a great supporter of democracy in Pakistan. I have not seen that, dedicated officer, previously. But when it was the same General Bajwa who supported him to bring the parliamentarian into the parliament, the allies into the parliament, to pass the bills from the parliament. And this, I'm not saying, I'm not claiming this. This has been claimed by the former Prime Minister Imran Khan very vehemently on the social media and the media and the social media. Then it comes when the Senate elections were taking place. Then the same Bajwa was a wonderful man, and all those people were wonderful people to support Imran Khan. But when it comes that when the institution decided that it is against the state, against the institutions to be more into the political arena, when they decided to become neutral, the language he used against them, it was the same Bajwa. He was using that he is Mir Sadiq and Mir Jafar, referring them to the tyrants or the sort of against the state of the Pakistan. Then when he lost every venue, I have been saying in these programs on many other platforms that Imran Khan has lost his game. Now he is no more to be in position to come into power in Pakistan again.
But he said, if he believes that he is so popular, this is obviously, we are looking at elections in, the term ends in August. Why make these statements? What is behind them?
Actually, he has no mantra now. He has no resolve to maneuver the support of his followers. Because those big claims, the revolution and the anti-American revolution and the $200 billion coming into Pakistan, and the green passport would be given respect, and so many claims he made. Whatever comes in his mouth, he uttered so irresponsibly. But when it comes to the deliverance, when it comes to the practicality, he failed to do so. Now he is just maneuvering the support of his core followers to keep on their blood warm. He is just using these texts. But unfortunately, on the other hand, I must say that the institution of the country, I am talking with responsibility, the judiciary and the executive has not played their role, because so many cases were launched against Imran Khan. If we compare seriousness of those cases, the gravity of those cases with the cases which the other political parties and leaders of the other political parties have been facing, they were put behind the bar without having any proofs. They remain in the jails for years and years. But on the other hand, even today, discriminatory, a favorable sort of treatment is being given to former Prime Minister Imran Khan.
It
has been proved that he has violated the rule of the land to gather the money from various controversial sources, but proper cases were not launched again.
Rana Sahab, why? Of course, what Abid Sahab is saying, he's saying that there is your party has also, because of certainly
they are reluctant to actually, but politically
why?
they fear that
what is the fear? Why not move against the former Prime Minister? Of course, he's been making these statements for a while now. He's been making these assertions for a while now. Every time that he, this is not new, saying that they're against the establishment, talking about against the institutions like this. Why not proceed against him? Is there, is the government giving him, what can one say, a scot-free kind of road to continue to make these statements? How do you see it?
I 100% agree with my honorable friend Abid Sahab. He is absolutely correct. There is a visible reluctance. There is some inhibition.
Why?
He has not been proceeded against properly. So if we don't abide by law ourselves, why should he abide by law? Because he is not being questioned and asked and properly prosecuted on whatever he has done. Whatever he has done. So there are two ways in which the ruling party, they think. There is a section of the parliamentarians and the executive. They think slowly and gradually we should move against him, which I don't agree. And there is a section who don't agree. They say there should not be any hesitation in implementing law. If you don't implement law, you will spoil the future of the country furthermore. So that is required. For example, I give you the example. Once there was a move, no confidence move in the parliament, and it succeeded. Before that, once this issue was taken up by the Supreme Court, didn't Supreme Court give an observation and direct that the Deputy Speaker and the Prime Minister, they should be prosecuted under the constitutional provisions? Why this action was not taken? Had this action been taken, the things would have been much better than they are before today. So I fully agree with Mr. Abid. We must go for introspection. We must look into this issue. We can't delay this matter. This reluctance is going to backfire very severely. So,
okay, on that note, let me come back to you. Abid sir, the recent statements that the former Prime Minister is making about his allies, the PMLQ, they are, what can one say, they seem to be mixed. Their relationship, of course, also seems to be mixed in the sense that, the loyalty of PMLQ, they have been, they've needed to constantly reassure him. Of course, they're a huge beneficiary of the alliance at this time. Chaudhry Parvez Ilahi enjoying the CMship of the province on 10 seats in the province is perhaps unprecedented, correct me if I'm wrong. What kind of a future do you expect now, with the vote of no confidence? Of course, they've also said that if it doesn't if it doesn't happen, they will resign. The PTI will resign. You think that they will?
I don't think so. The majority of the people within the PTI, they do not in favor of resigning. As Parvez Ilahi has also quoted that 99% people from the ruling PTI, they are not in favor of the dissolving the assembly or resigning from the government. But let me say that it was a very kind of unnatural to an extent alliance when the CAF League, the Q League, and the other allies of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, they were forced by some other quarters to join Imran Khan. But they were not naturally Imran Khan's allies. Now Imran Khan has lost every resolve. He has no political, sort of opportunities to go forward and to keep on his popularity, what he thinks. Now he is playing these tactics. But previously we have been saying this, that on one hand, Imran Khan is calling for elections. As far as I am in person is concerned, according to the constitution of the land, the tenure of the National Assembly and the Provincial Assembly is 5 years.
Right.
Why for one person's lust of power or the desire of the power, the whole system should be shaken,
But is
the
it going to
billions of rupees should be spent? And I was, raising this question that Imran Khan, if he wanted to do the, sort of get the election, he should resign from the governments he is, heading, but he did not. Finally, when he had nothing in his hand, but he announced that on such and such day we will dissolve the assemblies, which he couldn't do that. And still the KP assembly, there is no sort of bar for him, there is no difficulty for him. Why he is not dissolving the KP assembly? Because he wanted to remain.
No, but Abid Sahab, if there is, they've said on Wednesday, let me go to Rana Sahab. Rana Sahab, they've said that if on Wednesday the vote of confidence doesn't happen and there is a reluctance from Chief Minister Punjab to go for a vote of confidence, they will move towards resignation. You think that's just hyperbole? It's not, there's nothing to it?
They have already resigned from the National Assembly.
No, the Provincial Assembly.
What was the result? This is what I'm saying.
Gee, fair
There's a
enough.
similar situation. Now, if they think they'll resign from the Assembly, what would happen? The government will continue. If Pervez Ali is not the Chief Minister, some other Chief Minister will take over. Then the government will continue functioning. As far as the resignation is concerned, they are never serious in giving resignations. They haven't completed their process of resignation in the federal government. Article 64 of the Constitution ensures that the candidate, that the National Assembly member or the Provincial Assembly member has to appear in person before the Speaker with a handwritten resignation. Handwritten resignation. And he has to assure the Speaker that he is not under pressure. And more so if the Speaker does have a feeling or some reason to believe that this Johnny has fallen to temptation, Speaker is not duty bound to accept a resignation. This is what the Constitution says. So why do they say that collectively they will present the resignation, as Jody Fawaz said? Because even he doesn't want to resign. So this is all a situation of hunting with a hound and running with a hare. So identically, they'll have the same situation, Punjab.
But what about with the PMLQ? As far as the PMLQ is concerned, the alliance is concerned, the former Prime Minister has also said that Chief Minister Punjab may have his own views regarding the establishment. But he's continuing in his own, he's saying he's continuing to make assertions against the establishment. He's also talking about his people being approached, all of those things again.
These are all wild allegations, as he does. Every time he does, he's in a habit of leveling wild allegations, slandering every individual without any substantial evidence. So this is not on that he generally criticizes the establishment, despite the fact they have assured the nation they are out of every political activity. They'll not interfere. They'll not meddle in. So he's harping on the same string. He is going to land nowhere. But I can very conveniently predict that once he continues following the same exercise, he'll tumble out of politics. As my friend has said, very rightly observed, that he has difficulties in his politics, in future politics, because he does not know the alphabets of politics. It is just free for all. He always talks loose, irresponsible, without substantial evidence, and this does not behove of
how do you think his followers, how do you think his voters are now taking these statements? Because they've become quite routine.
So therefore they are losing, these statements are losing their impact. His endeavors have failed. The peak of his endeavor was the day when he took out the procession and they reached Rawalpindi, and they had announced that there will be millions of people and the multitudes of crowds will topsy-turvy Islamabad, and they will not let the government appoint the armed forces chiefs. This is what he was saying. It was his claim. Yes. Once he saw the crowd and mood of the crowd, then he didn't have any situation of wriggling out. He only wriggled out of his...
What about the assertions he's again, he's making about Asif Ali Zardari Saab and his involvement in Punjab?
I don't know. He has to give the evidence for that. He has been saying that there were people in Sindh House. He was in government. Did he catch hold of any person accepting the bribe or giving the bribe? Only just leveling allegation is not sufficient. There has to be substantial proof. Did he approach some court of law?
Okay, let me come back to you. Abid Saab, do you think it's also now people have become used to these kind of statements, his own followers also? Because, to start off with, like I said, there was the Cypher conspiracy. Then there's been, now recently, there's of course the issue of his own, the bullet wound and that controversy itself, and who's responsible. Before that there was the Cypher, then there was the country being the vote of confidence coming because of a conspiracy. All of those things, there has been some conspiracy to aid the kind of rhetoric, the kind of narrative.
The whole world is conspiring against one person, and that
the kind of narrative
Khan.
that he's been giving forward, there has been. Do you think that how is his followers, how are his people who support him are being impacted now? Because it's been going on for a while now.
Actually, there are some core, the die-hard supporters of him. That rather they are the followers, like a cult, or they are hero worshippers of Imran Khan while being a cricketer and whatever. But the people at the large, the people of Pakistan are being witnessing. Either it was America or the American Cypher who, deposed the former Prime Minister. Either it was General Bajwa or the establishment. In fact, General Bajwa and establishment brought him into the politics.
But now he's talking about the recent establishment also. It's not just the old establishment.
Yes.
Recently.
Actually, this because as I earlier said that he was not put to the task. He was not, given that much sort of, response by the government. By the law did not take place. That's why he has become more sort of free for all to say everything, to criticize and to allege and to, sort of leveling allegations against anybody, anywhere. This has this sort of sort of opportunity has been given by the loophole in the law enforcement process or in the law enforcement function of the country, unfortunately, because Imran Khan was not very, sort of serious. As Rana Sahab said, I would agree with him that he has not a very acute kind of politician. He is not a very wise kind of politician. Rather, he is not a politician. We have seen very, huge non-seriousness as we have heard the recent leaked audios, the alleged audios, the way the man is, talking to the people, and his so many kind of things in his personality which are very much controversial, which are very much non-serious. But unfortunately, the state of Pakistan got frightened. Either it was because the previous government, which is incumbent government, that was expecting. We have been talking to the many government functionaries that there are some people from within the institutions of the armed forces. They are supporting Imran Khan and they are using him to get their slot, to become the army chief. And the government was very much frightened. They were so, sort of scared to take the law.
You're saying that it has to stop and someone has to make him stop, and that's what essentially Rana Sahab is also saying. He's also saying that,
now this is the high time to take very serious actions against him. The law should take its course. Right. It is not the joke with the 250 million people of this country. Where stands our economy? What the circumstances we are facing? For just one Ladla person, every state institution should be at the stake? No. It is too late now. It should take place. The law of the land should take place right now and there.
Right. On that note, unfortunately, we're out of time. Rana Maqbool Sahab, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your time. Dr. Abid Abbasi, thank you for being with us. Overall, as far as the situation is concerned, certainly there seems to be there are new assertions coming from the former Prime Minister again against the establishment. All of course, we haven't had any proof about these allegations that he's talking about, he's making against the former President Asif Ali Zardari, against the establishment. All of these, the impact, maybe, perhaps it's time to consider whether they're losing their impact on his own followers also. overall, as far as the situation stands, of course, we'll know if there is no vote of confidence whether the PTI will resign from the Punjab assemblies, or again this will be followed by another retraction. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective. Thank you.